Good morning. My name is Reverend Kylie Renner, and on behalf of the entire One Spiritual Center community, I want to welcome you back to my living room this beautiful Albuquerque Sunday morning. With me is Sid Finley, and behind the camera is Zephyr Renner. And I want to thank you for joining us, and I'm grateful to be back here this week. Our internet is working, yay! Only took the technician 8 hours to figure out what the issue was, but here we are, back at it. So thank you for joining us this morning in these interesting and challenging and creative and powerful and all of the things times. And I've been really thinking every week about what it is to try and figure out how to stay relevant to what people's experiences are, especially because on a day-to-day basis, it feels like there are so many challenges that all of us are facing in our own unique ways. And so I've been thinking this week about listening and paying attention and being available to the moment. So that's what today is all about. But I want to share with you just a challenge that I experienced this week with listening, because I think that it brought to the surface some other things for me. And so I have the joy to teach English to students in China, and I do this online. And even though our internet was working perfectly fine the other night when I was teaching, I had this student where for whatever reason I wasn't able to hear. There were some glitches going on their end and on the software's end, and I was having the hardest time just hearing what she was saying. And she was trying so hard to communicate with me. And we had these moments where all of a sudden we could hear each other and it went well, and then all of a sudden I couldn't hear her. And it was so challenging. And I came out of it frustrated, and I'm certain she was frustrated as well. And I realized that it was such an amazing analogy about the frustration that happens when it just feels like we're not able to communicate or hear or to listen in the way that we would like to, and all of the things that stand in the way of that. So I've been thinking more about that this week, and I'm going to share more about listening and that process of listening to something new that's trying to emerge. But I just recognize that there's all kinds of things that we are being bombarded with right now, that we are being asked to listen to, that really don't deserve our attention. And I am very clear that we need to get clearer about what we let in and what we pay attention to. So thank you for joining us this morning as we explore this, and thank you for being here with us. And we're going to start with some prayer. So please join me as we anchor into this time and space with all of the things that are changing in a moment by moment basis, all of the questions that are coming to the surface, all of the things that are being challenged, all of the things that we are being asked to let go of. And I just recognize the power and the presence of the One through all of it. It is right there. Right in the midst of all of this. And I just recognize this beautiful opportunity to listen deeply to that which is trying to shift and change inside of us, so that we may listen with new ears and see with new eyes and open to the power of the One. The power of the One that is seeking to find its way new into this thing called life. And so I just know and I honor and I welcome whatever rises to the surface through our listening, whatever we are able to be clear about, wherever our new questions come from, whatever is asking for our sacred witness, because I recognize that Spirit is truly finding its way through the chaos, through the challenge, through our disappointment and our fear. Spirit is finding its way. And so I open and I allow and I let it be. And so it is. So to prepare the way for our meditation this morning by our special guest, John Bartlett, playing an even another instrument because he is that talented, who we are going to be gifted by this poem by Mary Oliver that is entitled Listen. Every day I see or hear something that more or less kills me with delight, that leaves me like a needle in the haystack of light. It is what I was born for, to look, to listen, to lose myself inside this soft world, to instruct myself over and over in joy and acclamation. Nor am I talking about the exceptional, the fearful, the dreadful, the very extravagant, but of the ordinary, the common, the very drab, the daily presentations. Oh, good scholar, I say to myself, how can you help but grow wise with such teachings as these? The untrimmable light of the world, the ocean's shine, the prayers that are made out of grass. And so we just allow ourselves to listen today, and we allow the meditation to take us where it takes us. Thank you so much for that, John. And now we will feature Sid Finley. Thank you for that, Sid. Ah. So this week, I felt a little bit inundated, and I don't know if there's a better word. David White talks about it as being besieged, and I think any way you talk about it, it's clear like that all of us are kind of being from all directions. Being given all of this information that's kind of changing on a moment by moment basis, and we're being asked to respond to it or react to it or get angry, and we are participating in this kind of interesting cycle of information, especially I believe because so much is unknown about what we are experiencing. We know so little still about this virus and its effects, and we know so little about what's going to happen next, and we know so little about how to even figure out how to plan our next day or our next week. And so it's really easy to start to feel like we're being assaulted by like the constant stream of information that we're supposed to somehow try and figure out. And I realized through all of this while watching myself react to it and other people around me that it's really, really tempting to want to leap to simple answers or leap to let's just reopen or let's just do what we were doing before. It's really tempting because it somehow makes us feel like we're in control, makes us feel like things make sense again, that we're safe in some way, that we are just going to keep on going. And I realized that temptation to do that is so strong that we have to start to really be vigilant about what we're listening to and what we're paying attention to, because if we don't, it's going to be really even harder for us to be able to navigate this time, which I think is actually a really powerful time, where we're being asked to transform in some way that is deeper than maybe we had been willing to give it access to before. And so what I've been really thinking about is, what am I listening to? And not just on the level of like, what am I paying attention to outside, but what am I listening to on the inside? And how can I make sure that I'm listening not just for the things that feel familiar or comfortable, but the things that actually that start to show up when I start to listen past my history and past what I think about myself, and actually listen to what Spirit is stirring underneath the surface. Because if we let it, it feels as if this time that we're living in could be a time in which we heal a lot of the things that are being asked to be healed, if we're willing to listen past our own preconceptions. And so there's an ancient Chinese story about two friends, one who played the lute and the other who listened. And the lute player was a wondrously skilled musician whose playing had entranced all those who heard. And whenever he played, his friends sat and listened to his music. And these friends were the closest companions. But one day, the friend who listened died. And whereupon the companion, the one who played, decided to cut the strings of the lute and never play again. And so this story is a story about friendship and about listening, but it also always, when I reflect upon it, I think about the tendency we have to not listen and to stop that flow of wisdom that's within us. And I think about the capacity we have to actually have this kind of wisdom come through us, this beauty come through us, that we stop. And the capacity we have to both be the listener and the one who is listening. And both those things have to exist together. And I believe that that's what the story is about the two needing each other, that we need to listen and be the listener. And the capacity we have to do that, but to not just listen to what we think we want to hear. And I know this is, confirmation bias. This is the whole system in place where we are constantly looking for things that justify our worldview or our point of view. But when we're dealing with these kind of more entrenched and cosmic ideas that are trying to come forward, it's really important for us to be listening, not just for those things that make us feel safe or make us feel like we understand or make us feel like we know what's coming next, but to actually listen beyond that. So when I was thinking about this week and what I wanted to share about it, I came back across this letter that had been written to someone, and his response that I know I read many years ago, and it took me a while, but I searched through a bunch of files and finally found it. And at first I was like, why did this strike me to share at this time? And I'm going to read it to you, and then hopefully it'll make sense. But this is a letter that was written to someone asking him advice about trying to figure out what the perfect job for himself was. So this is the letter. It goes, "Hi, Mike. I've spent this last year trying to figure out the right career for myself, and I still can't figure out what to do. I've always been a hands-on kind of guy and a go-getter. I could never be an office worker. I need change, excitement, and adventure in my life, but where the pay is steady. I grew up in construction, and my first job was a restoration project. But I love everything outdoors. I play music for extra money. I like trying pretty much everything, but get bored very easily. I want a career that will always keep me happy, but can also allow me to have a family and get some time to travel. I figure if anyone knows jobs, it's you. So I was wondering your thoughts on this if you ever get the time. Thank you, Parker. And so this is the response, which is why I believe I was resonating with the idea of listening here. So here it says, "Hi, Parker. My first thought is that you should learn to weld and move to North Dakota. The opportunities are enormous, and as a hands-on go-getter, you're qualified for the work. But after reading your post a second time, it occurs to me that your qualifications are not the reason you can't find the career you want. I had drinks last night with a woman I know. Let's call her Claire. Claire just turned 42. She's cute, smart, and successful. She's frustrated, though, because she can't find a man. I listened all evening about how difficult her search had been, about how all the good ones were taken, about how her other friends had found their soulmates and how it wasn't fair that she had not. Look at me, she said. I take care of myself. I put myself out there. Why is this so hard? Well, I said, how about that guy at the end of the bar? He keeps looking at you. Not my type, she said. Really? How do you know? I just know. Have you tried a dating site, I asked. Are you kidding? I would never date someone I met online, she screamed at me. All right, how about a change of scene? Your company has offices all over. Maybe try living in another city. What? Leave San Francisco? Never. How about the other side of town? Mix it up a little, visit different places, new museums, new bars, new theaters. She looked at me like I had two heads. Why the hell would I do that? Here's the thing, Parker. Claire doesn't want a man. She wants the right man. She wants a soulmate, specifically a soulmate from her zip code. She assembled this guy in her mind years ago, and now, damn it, she's tired of waiting. I can't tell Claire this because her capacity for sudden violence, but it's true. She complains about being alone even though her rules have more or less guaranteed she'll stay that way. She has built a wall between herself and her goal, a wall made of conditions and expectations. Is it possible that you have built a similar wall? So here's the deal and why I was resonating with this in terms of listening is because I believe that we all have these expectations, these walls that we have built in which we have basically guaranteed that we cannot listen past what we think we want to hear, that we cannot listen to that other kind of stirring that's happening in us because it feels too dangerous to respond to. And why this is important right now in this different way is that I believe that if we actually used that skill of listening, like that listening past our expectations, that there is something so powerful trying to be born that we could usher into being if we were only willing for it to show up in some unexpected way and for us to listen to that. So our soulmate might not show up in our zip code, which I have to say I have a lot of people in my world who I've had this similar conversation with, and it might not look like what we think it will, but we have to be willing to let go of our conditions and our expectations, which honestly are being so challenged right now. So what a great and powerful time to start to listen in this way that requires us to go past that which we thought we were going to hear, the things that we've been hearing forever come out of ourselves, and to actually hear this other thing that's inside of us. And this is the kind of listening that goes beyond the kind of just paying attention that we would normally do to be able to have a conversation, and enters into this other field. And so I have a teacher who told a story about a time that they had gone on retreat. And they had gone into this retreat feeling like they had been practicing being a really good listener for a really long time, and that it was actually something that they got complimented on often. And they went into this retreat with the goal of listening deeper. And so for about 2 weeks, they had spent just listening to the birds and to the stream outside their cabin where they were staying. And when they left this retreat and kind of got back into society and into conversation, they had this moment that they talk about a lot when they talk about their spiritual evolution. And it was this conversation that they ended up in with someone that they care about. And in this conversation, they like completely dropped into this other place where they were fully absorbed in listening, just listening to what the person was saying without going into that space of what am I going to say, what am I going to respond. They just completely dropped into that place, and they realized at some point in this conversation they had a moment of panic because they realized that that the person was going to stop talking soon and that they had not prepared anything to say next. And the friend actually later said that they could see that look come up her face because it was this like sheer panic, like I'm not prepared, I don't know what to do next. But what he talked about when he shared this with me was this moment that then took over, in which he realized that his deep listening had given him space to respond from a deeper place inside of him than just the mental machinations of what he could have come up with saying while listening, while trying to prepare what was coming next. And I always think about this from the perspective of how can we listen to spirit more fully, because it feels like anytime something comes up from spirit inside of us, that often we are already thinking, well, yes or no, but does spirit know about what my bank account looks like? Or does spirit know that there's a virus? Or whatever it is, does spirit know what my limitations are? And we are already putting all of that on it before we can even fully listen to what we are being asked to receive. And there's this churning that I talked about last week, like this hunger is showing up in so many people right now. And I realized that churning and that hunger is asking us to actually listen to it past our ideas of ourselves, past our ideas of the limitations of, well, that's just the way things are, that's the system that is in place, and that we're actually being asked to move from this deeper energy. So I came back across this great piece that was from a commencement address given a few years back by a woman named Debbie Millman. And I love her wording. So this is what she says. Imagine immensities. Don't compromise and don't waste time. Start now. Not 20 years from now, not 2 weeks from now, now. And this is important too in this time where it feels as if we're being asked to wait for it to be safe. There's all kinds of things that are being put off into the future, all of these not now, later things. But there's this other energy that I believe that is moving, that is actually asking us to do it now, to not wait for us ourselves to be given the all clear, to actually be listening and paying attention to what has to happen now, and to start to practice this in such a deep way that we get moved by it. So Mark Nepo is a great teacher of listening, and he actually wrote a whole book about it. But before he wrote the book called 7,000 Ways to Listen, he had actually written many pieces about this listening that has to happen. And I think this piece speaks to me on a lot of different levels, but it speaks to our capacity to listen to not just that which is comfortable, but also that which is uncomfortable, that challenges us out of our ideas of ourselves. So this is what he says. They say that spirit makes music by moving through the breaks in what is living. If so, the work of love is to hold each other and listen. When I was ill, it was easy to separate myself from others as a patient surrounded by caregivers. While this, of course, was outwardly accurate, In the truer moments of crisis, we needed each other, and it was hard to tell who was ill and who was well, who was giving and who was getting. In the center of it, we were just tumbled in an authentic embrace that saved us all. During those days, I had a dream in which love was the fire and experience was the wood. And I've come to understand that it is the loving of experience that releases the warmth and the light that waits in each of us. This is why experience is necessary. For living through it, the love that we are born with becomes who we are. My own time on earth has led me to believe in two powerful instruments that turn experience into love: holding and listening. For every time I have held or been held, every time I have listened or been listened to, experience burns like wood in the eternal fire, and I find myself in the presence of love. This has always been so. Consider these two old beliefs that carry the wisdom and challenge of holding and listening. The first is the age-old notion that when holding a shell to your ear, you can hear the ocean. It always seems to work. The scrutiny of medicine has revealed that when you hold that shell to your ear, you actually hear your own pulsations, the ocean of your own blood being played back to you. Yet this fact does not diminish this mystery, it only enhances it. For holding a shell to our ear teaches us how to hear the whole through the part, and how to find the universe within us. It teaches us that when we dare to hold another being like a shell to our ear, we can hold both the mystery of all of life and the ocean of our own blood. Amazingly, each being has a story of the universe encoded within them. Each soul is a shell shaped by the currents of the deep. Even physically, the inner ear, that delicate source of balance, is shaped like a conch. And so, whatever is held and listened to will show us where it lives in the world and in us. That brings us to the second belief, the folklore that if a horse breaks a leg, it must be put down. I discovered that this isn't true. Oh, it's true that it happens. Breeders shoot horses with broken legs as if there's nothing to be done. But now I know that they do this for themselves, and not wanting to care for a horse that cannot run. In just this way, fearful and selfish people cut the cord of those who are broken, not wanting to sit with a friend who can't find tomorrow, not wanting to be saddened with someone who will slow them down, saddled with someone who will slow them down, not wanting to face what is broken in themselves. In this lies the challenge of compassion. For when we dare to hold those forced to the ground, dare to hold them close, the truth of holding and listening sings, and we are carried into the wisdom of broken bones and how things heal. These are quiet braveries we all need, the courage to wait and watch with all of who we are, the courage to admit that we are not alone, the courage to hold each other to the ear of our heart, and the courage to care for things that are broken. The practice ground for these braveries has always been the small things at hand. Somehow, through the practice of doing small things with great love, as Mother Teresa put it, we learn how to be brave. In truth, the work of love is tending to small things completely. Such tending opens the mystery by the large heartedness of our smallest attention. We enter the ocean of love that carries us all. Simply and profoundly, the work of love is to love. For in that act, the universe comes alive. Such aliveness is the space that opens between us, as Martin Buber said, when two bow and touch in a true way. And so here we are in these times where we are being asked to listen, not just from the place of the things that we think we know, but from this place of compassion that understands that we're connected to things that we don't understand yet. We're connected to people we don't know, and the choices big and small that come from love that we make from that listening allow us to create something new. And it's all bubbling to the surface, and it feels overwhelming, but it doesn't have to be big and extravagant. So here, bookending with Mary Oliver's such beautiful lines about the small mysteries, the blades of grass, the shimmer on the ocean, the not needing things to be extravagant, to be important, with this same power from Mark Nepo that talks about the bravery of being completely in attention to the small kindnesses and the small acts of love that we're being called to. How powerfully can we use this this attention that we have, this wisdom within us, to bring forward this thing that is so obviously trying to shift right now. And I just keep asking people and myself to not get sucked into some simple answer, some easy escape, some moving from this moment to some idealized version of the past that never was, and actually allowing ourselves to instead listen past all of that to something deeper. And so I'm going to invite you to join me in this practice as we are being requested by Spirit to listen in this deeper way, in a way that is more challenging but also more fruitful, and to actually listen to what's shifting and changing so that we may allow for it to come into being in the way it wants to. So we're going to anchor this in prayer, and I'm going to ask Sid to lead the way.
Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, and sets us free. Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, and sets us free. Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, and sets us free. Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, sets us free.
And our prayer of love today is a prayer of deep listening. The listening that allows us to hear past what we expect to hear, to the deeper thing that is moving, that is seeking to find expression, this new vision of what is possible when we remember that we really belong to one another. And so we move from this place of being both the listener and the listening. We move powerfully and creatively into this moment, willing to allow for the unseen side of life, the way that Spirit moves, to be shown, for that wisdom to flow out and through us in ways that we never imagined possible. Because we have let down the walls of our conditions and our expectations, and we welcome all of the peace and the power of Spirit moving through us, no matter what it is that we're experiencing. We recognize that Spirit gets to be right there in the midst of it. And we use this power and this wisdom to challenge the systems that do not support the oneness that we know to be true. We challenge them, we recreate them, we transcend them. We set something new in motion through our willingness to participate in this new kind of listening that reminds us both that we belong to one another and that we are never alone, and that we are our brother's keeper. This is the work of love, and we are committed to it. And so we allow for the listening to be an act of love, to listening to our own wisdom as an act of love and compassion and care. And I just know that Spirit guides the way. And so I let it, and I lean into it, and I allow it, and I let it be. And so it is.
Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, and sets us free. Our prayer of love lifts us high. It heals us, sustains us, and sets us free.
Thank you, Sid. It's still so weird not to have an audience. I tell you, it's really, really interesting to have such a changed experience. So thank you for for bearing with us, because it's awkward and we just giggle a lot back here. It's what else are you gonna do? Thank you. That was beautiful.
I have to hear what I'm playing. That's
And I have to hear what I'm saying. Exactly. So thank you, Sid, for that, and for everything you give to us. So I want to thank everyone who showed up yesterday. We had a small but mighty group who helped prepare a meal that'll be served today for the hungry and the homeless here in Albuquerque. So if at 1 o'clock you want to send an extra prayer and blessing along with the meal that we prepared, we would appreciate that. I want to say thank you for all of those of you who have continued to support this community during this time, financially and otherwise. Thank you for the love and the support that is going to allow us to be able to be flexible when it becomes clear that it is time to gather in community again. Give us some resources to be able to do that. So if you're called and you want to make a contribution to this community, there's a couple ways to do that. One is through our website, onespiritualcenter.org. There's a donate button on there that you can use. You can also use text to give number, which is 505-207-4916. And you will be prompted through that service to create an account. And then after that, it is super easy to continue to make contributions in that way. Also, if you would like our home address, we will be providing that to anyone who asks, so that you may mail a check if that's how you prefer. And I just want to say thank you again for the continued support. So you may have heard that the governor last week gave us permission as churches to open at 10% capacity and then to 25% capacity. And we did a lot of talking and praying about exactly what makes sense right now. And I don't know about you, but honestly does not feel like it is the right time to be moving forward. And so we're most concerned about keeping everyone, especially those most vulnerable amongst us, safe, and to do everything we can to do that. So we will continue to be having services here online until it becomes clear that it is the right thing to do to open. We're also trying to get creative. This morning we were talking about whether we could have service outside here at our home. We have this great, big, beautiful front yard that would make a great place if that were of interest. So and feasible. So we're looking at all kinds of options, but I appreciate your continued prayerful and loving support of this community until we figure out exactly how that's going to look. Because honestly, like losing someone because of something we did and a choice we made because we would really love to be in community is not something I could live with. And so we will keep on praying and move slowly. So thanks for bearing with us. And I know that there are other churches who are suing the governor about being able to be open, and who will be opening. And from the deepest part of my being and what I value is I value safety, and I value science, and we're gonna go with that because that's who we are. So thank you for your support in that and your love. So then I also want to let you know that next week, those who are wanting to join us, we will be at Roadrunner Food Bank helping prepare whatever they need us to do. I know that they've been inundated with a greater need recently, so we will be doing whatever it is that they ask us to do. We'll be there from 11 to 2. And if you would like to join us, please shoot me an email or a message or something so I can add you to our list. And I appreciate the support of that as well. So you up to singing? We'll find out. Yes, it's got allergies this morning. So here.
One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel alright. One love, one heart. Let's give thanks to the Lord. We can feel alright. People, get ready. There's a train a-coming. You don't need no baggage. You just get on board. All you need is faith. Hear that diesel humming. Don't need no ticket. You just thank the Lord. One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel alright. One love, one heart. Let's give thanks to the Lord. We can feel alright. People get ready for that train to Jordan, picking up passengers from coast to coast. Faith is the key. Open the doors and boredom. There's room for all that love the most. One love, one heart. Let's get together and feel alright. One love, one heart. Let's give thanks to the Lord. We can feel alright. Let's get together and feel alright.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us here today. Thank you for practicing listening with me to that deeper thing within us. Spirit, lead the way. Let us sing our last blessing to one another.
Go forth and walk in